Welcome back to another episode of Relatively Damaged Live. My name is Angela, and this is Kat.
Hello.
I pointed the right way. The live shows are currently streamed to YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. Remember to follow and subscribe if you like the show. And please share with your friends if what we talk about seems interesting to you. Kat and I generally discuss topics for about 30 minutes, and it's just topics we find interesting. So today's topic, how do you allow for grace? And as those of you who are regular watchers know, we almost always start with a quote. And hello, Trevor.
Yes, hello, Trevor. All right. I do not have these quotes attributed. I just pulled them off Pinterest, but I thought that they were very apropos. So the first one is grit determines that life challenges will neither defeat nor define us. Grace gives kindness to ourselves and others even when it's hard. And then this one in particular, I love. It's easy to give grace when I recall how much I need it.
Jan is also here. Hi, Jan. Good to have you here. Well, I was joking with you a little bit before the show about giving people grace, and every once in a while in our family we'll say, who wants to say grace? And I will raise my hand and say, I will. And then I promptly say grace. Literally the word grace. But one of the things I was thinking about is that, in order for me to give grace, I almost have to believe someone did something wrong or not right, or just something that doesn't fit with how I think things should have gone. And then that's where I think grace comes in. What are your thoughts?
I think of that because I think when we think of grace, we think of the, where does it really come from, the origin of it? And it's kind of that whole Christian tradition of coming up and the grace that God gives us. And so, yes, the idea behind that is because we do something wrong, so God gives us grace. I think it can go even beyond that. Certainly that's one aspect of it, but it's also allowing the grace to let people be who they are, or to let people find their own way. So I could say, oh yeah, I know what you should do. Here's what you should do, and go ahead and do it. Which would be great and easy for me. But to sit back and say, okay, I'm going to let you figure it out. That's a kind of grace.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Allowing that. And I think of all the times, when I have made mistakes, even though people may have tried to guide me in a certain direction, and I was like, nope, I'm going to do it my own way. I'm going to use that grit to get through it. And they had to, in a sense, allow me that grace in order to just let me get through it and figure it out myself, and make those mistakes and be imperfect and still love me anyway, still be there for me anyway, still have that relationship. Suppose, well, you're not going to do what I want, so I don't want you, kind of idea.
Well, that also implies, though, that I mean, I think too, maybe coming from a very transactional perspective, loving anyway when someone does something wrong or not in the way that one thinks the other one should do it, that when that happens, that then the love is not valuable or valued, right? Like, if you don't do X, Y, or Z, then I'm not going to love you. And I don't think that's really love. So, like, is grace maybe that stepping stone before you get to learning what love really is? I'm not sure if that makes sense.
I think it might be kind of like a chicken or egg thing. Which comes
Okay.
first, grace or love?
Mm-hmm. Hmm. But do I need grace if I'm accepting and loving? Well, okay, but what if someone hurts me? They may not intend to hurt me,
Mm-hmm.
right? They don't know what they do. most of us don't, including me. I don't know when I, so maybe that is also grace of me saying, okay, well, they don't know they don't understand that they're hurting me. Therefore, now I'm going to, I still continue to love because they really don't know what they're doing. Perhaps that is grace.
I think I think it's that's a big part of it. Yes. Sometimes it's they know what they're doing, and grace leads to forgiveness, kind of thing.
So if someone knows what they're doing and they're purposefully hurting, well, forgiveness is everything to do with me,
right?
And nothing to do with them. I mean, that's my belief anyway, right? Like, if I'm going to forgive, I don't need an apology. I don't need any of that because it's something that happens inside of me. It's kind of like taking offense. Offense happens in my body, not by what someone else has done to me. So maybe then this is how I work through things, guys. You're really seeing it, my wheels turning today.
Yeah. Well,
oh, here, Jan just gave us something. Let's go ahead and put it up on the screen.
Yeah.
Jan says, I was asked about grace once, and I found this to be an answer that can be religious or secular. Grace is unconditional love, a moment of spiritual alignment to the whole and a deep asking that finally gets heard.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Spiritual alignment to the whole. So I think like spiritual alignment to the one. I mean, depending on how you look at spirituality, right? There's the dualistic belief that we're separate from God, and there's the non-dual belief that we are not separate. We are all part of the greater. So I think that perhaps when Janice, what he wrote about spiritual alignment to the whole is like that deeper, perhaps maybe that deeper mind of really pondering and going deeper into, maybe it's like what would Jesus or what would a loving God do? Or, for those who believe like in the Tao, my understanding is there's not really a thing to believe in. It's just the energy of the universe, and I don't see the energy of the universe as not being loving, whether it's perceived as good or bad. And Jan is saying mind and spirit. Yeah, I don't go for it, Kat. I see your wheels turning too.
Yeah. Maybe let me speak to this from an experiential point of view. When I have felt that I have done great harm, and then experience the grace, either the grace of God or the grace of a person I had wronged, by them being willing to forgive and to continue that relationship. Um, and I think that's what it's about, whether it's a relationship with God or a relationship with another person. It's that coming together and yeah, being made whole again.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so for me, that's uh, it's like a reconciliation almost. Um,
Mm-hmm.
here I am, flawed. I will do hurtful things to people, usually not intentionally, um, but because I can't get out of my own way. I find it
Mm.
hard to get out of my own way. I'm in my head. I'm in my ego, and that grace is what allows me to get out of myself and to be connected to the other, to the whole, as it were.
Right. So what about we would grace be only applied to other people, or would we also apply it to ourselves?
Oh, absolutely, to ourselves. Um,
Mm-hmm.
for me, the grace for me to forgive myself, because in reality, most of us will be the harshest on ourselves. At least that's been my experience. You know, I'm I'm stupid. I screwed up. I'm worthless, and that's just a way to separate myself from the whole. And so if I give
Mm.
myself that grace to say, you know what, I'm not stupid. I did a stupid thing. I'm not worthless. I have value, and this is how.
Mm-hmm.
I made a mistake. I'm human.
Yeah, so that's like the difference between shame and guilt, as Brene Brown talks about too, right? Like shame is I am a mistake, and guilt is I made a mistake, I think. And so if someone is stuck in the I am a mistake phase, then what happens, right? Because
Mhm.
I don't know that if in that mindset of I am a mistake that one could even have grace or give
Right.
grace to themselves, because there's no value there. So then comes in the question of value, and how do we find that?
Mhm. Well, a lot of times we start from that shame, our uh, the shame of what we are, because usually of what we've done, and we put those labels on ourselves. Then you're at the where I've done this, and you in your heart make a value judgment. I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And grace allows you to get past that and to basically say, being wrong is part of the human experience. But you know what? Grace allows me to still find my value and to find the forgiveness and to find the healing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I could shift back into shame and go, I am, I am, I am.
Right. No, and what's coming to mind for me is someone I was speaking to recently who had some significant traumas in their life, and I think really internalized that is her value, and is easily stuck in that place of they're just a mistake, period. So I think part of me is also trying to figure out, when someone is in that place of I am a mistake and they've been severely traumatized, then number one, I would think we need to give them grace to be
Absolutely.
who they are.
Mhm.
Accept, which I think might just be accepting them for where they're at. I don't know that it's making it okay. I don't think it's making their behavior okay if their behavior is not in line with what I believe is loving, like, so part of that grace, the loving thing to do would be to say, hey, no, that doesn't work for me. I don't like that. The other thing though is being really careful not to make it wrong that they're there.
Right. You know, and I again, I don't know if this is the right thing. I've, had discussions with people who were there, and what I've tried to say is, I understand why you feel that way. That's not how I see you.
Mm, right.
Um, because they're talking about their own self perception.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I could be wrong. But I think that's giving a grace to them, is saying, I don't see you that way.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and it's true. I don't see people as failures. They may have failed, or they may have had this trauma and they may feel worthless. And so they're saying, I am worthless, but saying, I don't see you as a failure. I
Yeah.
don't see you as worthless.
I'm also wondering, like, if that requires a speaking to, and just Trevor says, yes, accept where they're at, and then that gives us a place to start healing from, or
Mm-hmm.
gives them a place to start healing from. Like, there were times in my life where I thought, okay, I need to specifically say this to someone, right? And then I think more so now is treating them that way, that I don't see that problem, like what you were talking about. I don't see that them as the problem to be
Mm-hmm.
fixed. And then I think showing them that what it looks like, which is something that I think we all kind of have to grow into, because showing someone that giving them grace, and then showing them what it looks like to love when they haven't experienced it, especially if they've been significantly traumatized,
Mm-hmm.
is hard. And we run into these people at the grocery store, the angry people at the grocery store, or you know the because I think also we get in this place where we think we always need to be comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
and not learning how to be uncomfortable. And sometimes, and giving grace can be extremely uncomfortable. Let me just put up Jan's comment here. Jan says, grace, as you've pointed out, is very difficult to define. One example I've always heard is that people should grow old gracefully. But what does that mean? I'd rather grow old ungracefully and enjoy my life in totality. I agree
Rock
with you,
on.
Jan. Go, Jan. Yeah, that's what I'm trying. And I think that's what I'm trying to figure out is grace like a safety net, right? Grace is that safety net maybe that we need when we don't know how to love. I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. It just points out the different definitions of grace. And we talked briefly about it, and I quickly looked it up before we got on, and I was like, I don't like any of those definitions. That grace, that I just think there's more to it. I think it's so much deeper than those kinds of definitions. Um, you know, Grow
Mm-hmm.
old gracefully, or she danced with grace, that kind of stuff. It's something that's one meaning of it, and I don't think that's what we're going for here. I think we're really going for that deeper thing. But let me go back to your comment about the uncomfortableness. I was somewhere last night, and one of my friends was there, and I could see on her face the she was going through something. And after we were done and I talked to her, I said, "Are you okay?" And she says, "I'm going through some stuff." And all I said was, "Do you need a hug?" And she just hugged me and held on tight. And I said, "It's going to be okay. I'm here for you if you need me." That was all I could do in that moment.
Mm.
But I just as I need grace when I'm in those moments of anguish or trouble or things like that, meaning I just need someone to say in a way that they care.
Well, there's something that I'm thinking about as you're talking that came up when you talked about like, oh, she danced so gracefully, and then it got me to thinking about like life force, or like in qigong they say the use of the life force, and then there's these flowing movements, and that maybe in some ways grace is allowing things to be and to exist how they're going to exist. Like all of a sudden it hit me. I'm like, huh. Like, I think it's Byron Katie who said, yeah, it's Byron Katie who says something like, if I argue with reality, I lose 100% of the time.
That's Byron Katie, yeah.
like maybe grace is the same way. Just instead of arguing with reality, it's giving it room to be.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly what it is, and not trying to change it.
And that it's okay. So not passing that value judgment on it.
Right. Yeah, because it is. What exists in this moment, whether we perceive it as right or wrong, is what exists. And therefore, if we pass judgment, then we make it right or wrong, putting us into that duality of things. And then where is grace at that point? Or where is that flowing with the life force? It's gone. Now I'm struggling against it. It's like, okay, I'm going to use a cold reference. It's like going out in the cold and like fighting against it instead of relaxing into it and going, okay, yeah, this is a different sensation. I'm not sure I like this, but I'm not going to make it wrong. Or like with chronic pain, it's really easy to, and another example would be chronic pain and tensing up and fighting against it instead of letting it flow through. So it's almost like I've got to give grace to the pain to allow room for it to just flow, to just exist. And somehow it softens when I stop fighting against it. A reality, because the pain is there.
And all right, so you're talking physical pain, talking emotional pain.
Mm-hmm.
You lose someone. All your crying and wailing, while it might be cathartic, isn't going to change that. But allowing yourself that grace to mourn and say, yes, they're gone. I love them and I miss them.
Mm.
And it's okay. It's okay to hurt. Um, yeah, I mean, there's so many aspects of it. Allowing that grace for yourself. But here's another thing: is that do you think that if people know grace and can give grace to if person hasn't known grace and hasn't been able to give grace to themselves, are they able to give it to others?
Wow, that is a fantastic question. And I'm not sure I know. I think that there is a great attempt at trying to give grace. And is it really true grace at that point? Or is it grace with expectation, which I don't think would be true grace? Oh, if I give this person grace, there might get to be that an unhealthy idea of what it means to give grace. if it's not well understood. So I'm thinking of like maybe people in abusive relationships. Oh, I just need to give them grace. And by giving them grace, then maybe. And that's not true, because the loving thing to do would be to say it's not okay to treat me this way. And
right. Well, and that's where it gets sticky, you know. And I think this is why it stems from you know, a religiosity or a spiritual kind of place, because you know, in the Christian tradition, the idea of grace is that you are receiving it as a gift, that it's given. And again, you know, us humans being imperfect beings, having our egos and going that, we can't give that unconditional kind of thing. We can attempt to come as close as we can. And maybe we can achieve it for those brief moments where we have that total connection to the whole. But for me personally, again, it was an episode for me that I believe was of divine grace, that showed me what grace was.
So you had to have that experience before you were able to really practice, do you think?
For me, yes. I mean, it happened when I was relatively young, and so it was something that I was able to latch onto and to understand. Having that experience, and maybe never having had that before then from another person, gave me that internal knowledge of what it was, and a starting point and how to evolve.
Right.
My thoughts on it.
Yeah. Okay. So grace is, you'll have to excuse me.
My shoulder hurts.
Okay.
My lower shoulder.
Okay.
Like down here.
Okay. Give me just a minute. Looks like we've got to end the show. Grace.
We will allow some grace.
Yeah, we'll allow some grace. Okay. Well, I'm Angela, and this
I'm
is
Kat.
We're here every Monday around the same time. Sometimes we move, but we usually get on here Mondays. And then, yeah, so we're good. We'll see you here next week. And if in the meantime you need some more stories or things to listen to, check us out on YouTube or head on over to anywhere you can listen to a podcast and you can find Relatively Damaged. So thank you so much for watching today, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Kat.
Thank you.